Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a bit different, really homing in on one specific piece of source material. It's a market update article published June 1st, 2025.
That's right. And it gives us a really focused snapshot, doesn't it, of the digital asset market just over this past week. Performance, market cap changes.
Exactly. And our mission here is to unpack this specific source, pull out the key insights, and really understand what this week's data tells us, especially about how different assets reacted when Bitcoin, saw some big moves. We want to help you quickly grasp the trends the article highlights.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We've got this article detailing, well, a pretty volatile week in the digital asset space.
Absolutely. And the focus is clear. The week leading up to June 1st. It looks at the total market cap shifts, Bitcoin's journey, and the mixed fortunes of other assets mentioned in this report.
So the article kicks off by reminding us about a recent high for Bitcoin, right? Just before this specific week started.
It does. It notes Bitcoin actually surpassed its January 2025 all-time high, a new peak.
And the figure mentioned was?
Almost $112,000. The report specifically points to May 22nd, Pizza Day, as they call it.
Wow, almost 112K. That's quite something the article highlights. But as the report shows, that peak, well, it didn't stick around.
No, it didn't.
What did this source say started the pullback almost straight away?
Well, this is where the article gets really interesting. It directly links the retracement, the start of it, to external news. Political news, actually.
Oh.
It states that the very next day, May 23rd, U.S. President Trump outlined a new tariff recommendation against the EU. And according to the report, Bitcoin slumped, dropped several $1,000s right then.
Just like that.
Down to around $107,000. The report draws a pretty direct line between that specific announcement and the price move.
So a political statement flagged by the source as a direct trigger. That's a key takeaway from the article right there. What happened next as the business week began?
Well, the article mentions a bit of a bounce back early in the week. It touched $110,000 in gap.
Oh, okay. So trying to recover.
Yeah, but it seems it hit resistance there. The report notes it got pushed back down, back towards that $107,000 level again.
Sounds like 110K was a sticky point, according to this report. And did the article say things got worse later in the week?
It did, yeah. The report details another decline, down to $105,000 on Friday.
And did the article link that to anything specific?
Yes. Again, it links this movement to another comment from President Trump. This time, the article says, blaming China for violating a trade agreement.
Interesting how the article keeps highlighting those specific external events.
Definitely. And then the data in the report shows Bitcoin dipped even further on Saturday, hit a 12-day low, actually, $103,000.
Wow, quite a slide from that $112,000 peak. And the article points fingers at those specific political comments for the key drops. So where did the report leave Bitcoin when it was published on June 1st?
By publication, it had clawed back a little ground, just above $104,000.
Oh.
But the report stresses it was still down over 3% for the week overall. And its market cap had sort of settled around $2.070 trillion. Dominance, though? Its market share. Still very strong, the report says well above 61%.
Okay, so that paints a clear picture of Bitcoin's week, according to this source. Hit a high, pulled back significantly, with the article explicitly linking drops to that external political and trade news.
And what's fascinating looking at the rest of the report is how the broader market reacted.
Right. How did everything else fare?
Well, while Bitcoin was down 3-ish%, the article highlights that most other digital assets mentioned saw even bigger losses over those 7 days. Much bigger.
Really?
Yeah, the total market cap for everything, collectively. The report says it dropped by over $250 billion during the week. Fell below $3.4 trillion total.
$250 billion wiped out across the market. That's substantial, based on this report. Did the article name the biggest losers for the week?
It did. It points specifically to Dogecoin and Shiba Inu leading the pack downwards. Massive declines reported 15% for Doge, 12.6% for SHIB.
15%. Anyone else mentioned with big drops?
Yeah, Solana, SUI, and Link were right behind them. The article notes price drops around 10% each for those.
So really significant pullbacks across a lot of well-known assets then. What about, say, ETH or XRP? How did they compare in the article's data?
Well, the report mentions ETH. Mostly held its ground, managed to stay around the $2,500 level, it seems.
Okay, so some stability there.
But XRP, different story. The article states a 6.7% weekly slump. That brought its price down to $2.16. And it also noted more losses for others like PI, XMR, and PPE during that week, Just a generally rough time reported for most assets.
So, yeah, a predominantly red week across the board in this report, but wasn't there one standout, an exception the article pointed out?
Yes, that's the really interesting contrast the article draws. CRO,
Kronos' token.
that's the one. It actually went completely against the market trend described in the report.
It bucked the downturn.
Exactly. The article states CRO jumped 7.5% since the previous Sunday, and it was trading well above year-on-one cents when the report came out.
Now that is fascinating. In a week where the report shows Bitcoin down, most others down even more. CRO moves up.
So what does this all mean for you looking at this? This deep dive into this one report really shows that, yeah, Bitcoin's movement often sets a tone, but other digital assets, they don't just blindly follow.
Clearly not.
This article highlights how some, like Doge and SHIB here,
Yeah.
saw much bigger percentage drops. But then you have others, like CRO in this specific week's report, that could do something completely different, move against the grain.
Yeah.
It really underscores how diverse this whole landscape is. And it suggests that even when major external events, like the political news mentioned in the source, seem to impact the whole market.
Right, like those Trump comments the article cited.
Exactly. Even then, specific assets might have their own unique drivers or catalysts at play, which, it raises a pretty important question for anyone watching this
Well,
space.
so
When you read market reports like this one, how do you even start to figure out why one asset might behave so differently from the others? Especially when the report itself focuses heavily on those big external factors affecting the overall market trend.
That's a really key analytical challenge this report brings up, isn't it? We've seen the article connect Bitcoin's price drops to specific external commentary and then show this really turbulent week with big declines for many, but crucially, not all other assets it tracks.
Yeah, this report gives us a very focused snapshot of one volatile week, and it provides these concrete examples. Bitcoin's path, the big altcoin drops, and then this one standout performer bucking the trend.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with, building on the source material, given that this specific article draws such direct lines linking Bitcoin's price drops to U.S. President Trump's comments on tariffs and trade, consider this. When you're analyzing the digital asset market, how much weight should you actually place on geopolitical and macroeconomic news? Stuff that seems, kind of peripheral to the tech itself, especially if analysts writing reports like this one are drawing such direct connections.